We're going to begin this morning with new details about Ottawa's airlift of Canadians stranded on board the Diamond Princess. That is the cruise ship in Yokohama, Japan, that's been quarantined now for the past 2 weeks with the biggest coronavirus outbreak outside mainland China. We know the evacuation flight is now set for Thursday of this week. We're also learning the number of Canadians on the ship who've tested positive for the virus has more than doubled. And that today is raising new questions about just who will be eligible for that airlift in a couple of days' time. Right now, here's what we know. Global Affairs Canada is confirming 32 Canadian passengers have now tested positive for this new COVID-19, up from 15, which was the last figure available. There are 256 Canadians on the Diamond Princess passenger list. Canadian officials have previously said only passengers who are healthy and who are not showing symptoms will be allowed on the evacuation flight. So let's begin with Laura McQuillan here with me in studio, who's learned some new details about what to expect this week. Laura, start us off.
We've been in touch with some of those passengers this morning, Heather. Just in the past hour or so, they've been telling us they're still getting updates on what's happening with the flight. So they were hoping to fly out tomorrow. Now it's been pushed back another day. That's because of some flight clearance issues with the plane. They've been told they'll be informed of the exact departure time about 24 hours before they take off. As you mentioned, 256 Canadians on the ship, 32 now testing positive for coronavirus, all of them in hospital or heading there. So that leaves some 220 others. Now, we're hearing from the government that about 100 of them still haven't decided or haven't told the government whether or not they want to come home on that charter flight. Others, in the meantime, can't wait, including Alan and Diane Chow. They set up a Twitter account just to share what's been going on inside their cabin on the ship. We can show you a tweet from them this morning as well. They say they just heard the crushing news that the flight out of Japan is delayed. They're not sure what's going on and when this plane will arrive. Well, now we can tell them hopefully Thursday, but they just cannot wait to get out. One important detail we're also learning out of the government is because, of course, Japan has said everyone can get off the ship tomorrow when the quarantine on the boat ends. Well, the government here is saying don't do that. If you want to come home in a hurry, they won't be allowed on the charter plane if they do leave the ship early. And also a warning that the Public Health Agency has powers under the Quarantine Act to require those people to still be quarantined for another 14 days if they do try and come home. Also warning them they might not be able to get on another flight. They might not get accommodation.
Exactly.
All because they've been on the Diamond Princess. So things could get a whole lot harder if they don't take up that charter flight.
Okay, so these next 48 hours are going to be rather determinant then. And we know they're going to get, when they do get on that flight, across home to Trenton again, and from Trenton on to quarantine in Cornwall, Ontario. Now, for people in Cornwall, it's really interesting. We've been hearing there's been quite a bit of confusion. They think some misinformation. What's been the reaction in that community?
We went out on the streets there yesterday to speak to people. It's a town of about 1,500 people. It's a very small town. News travels fast, but we were hearing a mix of concern, but also a lot of compassion from people there. They're happy to welcome those passengers off the Diamond Princess as well. Here's that mix of views that we heard.
If somebody's sick, you got to shelter them, don't you think?
How can we 100% guarantee they're not going to be sick? So coming here, because I have a daughter, daughter getting infected.
They're going to have some concerns because of the disease, but then, these are Canadians that need a place to, to be. So kind of conflicted either way there.
I'm just glad they're going to be home. Being stuck away from home for a really long time can do a lot to your mental health. So just the fact that they're going to be home is going to be nice.
And we heard from public health officials trying to clear things up a little bit yesterday because there had been confusion over whether Canadians who've tested positive but are asymptomatic would be allowed on the plane as Americans were. We heard from the Deputy Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Howard New, that no one with symptoms or who is confirmed to have coronavirus will be allowed on the plane. So that clears it up for the people in Cornwall. We've also heard that the passengers will have to stay in their rooms, so they will get some outdoor time, kept far away from members of the public. There'll be 24/7 security. And Dr. Paul Roumeliotis, who is the medical officer of health for Eastern Ontario, also wanted to clear up a few of those concerns at a press conference yesterday. Here's a little bit more of those details he gave.
I'm reassured that we do have the processes in place to be able to safely quarantine these repatriated Canadians, while at the same time protecting both people visiting NAV Centre, working at a NAV Centre, and obviously I don't think there's a risk for the Cornwall and surrounding area at all. I am more worried, I bet you, at this time about the flu.
And that's something we've heard a few times now. So health officials really want to reassure people in Cornwall there's a very low risk that this contained group could spread coronavirus if they even indeed had it, because they will be screened.
Exactly. All right. You're going to stay in touch with some of the people who are on that ship today. Bring us new information. 32 Canadians now testing positive, more than 450 overall on board that ship, the Diamond Princess. Thank you very much, Laura McQuillan.